Local.
Tragedy on the road. A toddler run over by a dump truck.
A family that's already known tragedy is grieving again today. A 2.5-year-old boy is killed after troopers say he ran into the road and was hit by a dump truck.
Live.
I'm Bob Keeling. Coming up live, we'll look at who's picking up the tab for the services and security that Casey Anthony needs now.
Late breaking.
Next stop, Central Florida. Groundbreaking for a local commuter rail and what it means for you.
And the second named storm of the hurricane season is leaving its mark. We are tracking Tropical Storm Brett. Western News at 5 starts right now.
Late breaking at 5, a toddler is run over and killed by a dump truck, and sadly, this is not the first tragedy for this family. Good evening. I'm Jim Payne.
I'm Martha Sagowski. It happened in Volusia County this morning on Osteen-Maytown Road at Dixon Lake Road. That child was the grandson of a Seminole County deputy. WESH News' Claire Metz live with the latest information. And Claire, we're hearing that this child ran into the path of that truck. Just so sad.
Really is, Martha, and that's certainly what appears to have happened. And as you mentioned, he is the son of that Seminole County Sheriff's Deputy, Major Cliff Manley. Now, as is often the case, the youngster was over here at his grandparents' home when it all happened, and now loved ones are just trying to help them cope.
He was always running around and jumping and playing, and he was just a wonderful little kid.
Wilbert Williams says his young cousin, Antonio Nelson, was just a joy to be around, full of life. The toddler was in the yard with his grandmother, Deputy Manley's wife, holding her hand one moment. The next, he was gone into the street.
The little boy broke away from the grandmother's grip, ran towards the street as the grandmother tried to retrieve him, and unfortunately, the dump truck was not available to avoid striking this child.
The dump truck, privately owned and driven by this man, 27-year-old Timothy Simmons of Deltona, was hauling trash. The rear tire ran over the boy. Some in the neighborhood claim Simmons was speeding, the posted speed limit 30 miles an hour. Certainly that's part of the investigation, but on first glance, our sources say there's no evidence of that. The truck was inspected on scene and found to be properly weighted without any mechanical malfunction. Tragedy has struck all too often for this family, according to loved ones.
Just like second or third time they had trauma in their life because they lost their oldest daughter not too long ago to a car accident, and now this happens to here.
That daughter was little Antonio's aunt, a cousin of Antonio's. This 14-year-old boy was shot and wounded in a drive-by shooting some years back. They must feel like they're under some kind of a dark cloud, but their pastor says they will hold on to a strong faith.
This is hard. It's not an easy thing to go through with, something that just happened that unexpectedly, so we just have to do the best we can.
Back live now. As we understand it, there are no charges filed in this case. The investigation is ongoing, according to Florida Highway Patrol. As for the young boy, the victim's mother, we understand she's not been identified to us by troopers, but we understand she's been with her parents, the grandparents, much of this day. In Osteen-Volusia County, Claire Metz, WESH 2 News.
A body is found near a local mall today in the parking lot of an industrial complex. Detectives are calling this murder. WESH News' Michelle Meredith is live near Orange Blossom Trail. And Michelle, investigators are stumped so far.
Well, they're stumped because they have not identified this woman. They do not know who she is. The body was discovered on the ground in the corner of a parking lot. Roofers apparently made the grisly discovery close to 9 o'clock Monday morning. Investigators tell us the woman was murdered, but at this point won't say how.
Yeah, as you can tell, this is a closed business. This business has been closed for quite some time now. Anybody that drives through this area could not see the victim lying on the ground.
Investigators tell us the victim was in her late 20s to mid-30s, had blonde hair, was wearing shorts and a tank top. This is an industrial area off the Orange Blossom Trail, not far from Florida Mall. You saw
2 semi-trucks parked right in this area. There was one pointing out towards the road and one pointing inward.
Chris Hillman works for a company right next door. When he came to work this morning, he parked his car in the same general parking lot where the body was found. Did not hear or see anything unusual.
What do you think about this?
It's kind of scary, to be honest with you, and something that happens so close to where you work every day. You never know when something's going to happen. So, yeah, it's concerning. So.
Now, an autopsy will be done to confirm cause of death. Live in Orange County, Michelle Meredith, WESH 2 News.
Investigators in Volusia County are also working to ID a woman whose body was discovered today. People who live in a South Daytona condo complex reported seeing a body floating in the Halifax River. It's not clear how the woman died, but investigators believe she was a resident of the complex.
Freedom for Casey after one of the most recognizable jail inmates in Central Florida history walks free. Many questions remain. The most pressing: where is she? While the masses don't know for sure, we do know Casey Anthony rode away from the Orange County Jail in the early Sunday morning hours wearing a huge grin. WESH 2's Bob Keeling has been covering the Casey case from day one. And Bob, Casey's out and her legal team says her new family is picking up the tab.
Yeah, that's right. In fact, there was an interview today with the Today Show from Cheney Mason. He says that basically the legal team is now Casey Anthony's new family. They are surrounding her, providing the services she needs. Also, there are a variety of professionals who are volunteering other services that Casey needs. As soon as Casey Anthony left the Orange County Jail, her security, housing, and other needs were no longer the taxpayers' problem. So who's paying now? In an interview with NBC's Today this morning, Cheney Mason said people are volunteering services and her new quote-unquote family is taking care of the rest.
We have mental health professionals that have volunteered their time and services in various capacities. She has her family, which she defines as us, and nobody's quitting on her. None of the team that tried the case are quitting or going anywhere.
Already, Casey sightings across Central Florida have begun to spring up on social media, but Mason says those trying to find and or harass Anthony should, in his words, get a life.
There might be somebody, if they won't spend enough money and effort and energy trying to find her, but it won't do them any good because they won't be able to get to her, they won't be able to talk to her, and when they blink, she'll be gone.
Since Casey Anthony was declared indigent, state records show that Florida taxpayers have picked up over $100,000 in investigative expenses. $25,000 more are pending, and the state is refusing to reimburse $11,000. Anthony is still claiming indigency and asking the state of Florida to pay for her appeal of convictions of lying to investigators. In the meantime, Mason says Anthony is not on probation and can go wherever she wants.
She's absolutely free. She doesn't check in with anybody.
Now, coming up all new at 5:45, Cheney Mason with more on where Casey Anthony is and is not. Then coming up all new at 6 o'clock, we'll look at why George and Cindy Anthony's refusal to act as decoys during their daughter's release may have driven the wedge even further between them. We'll explain why all new at 6. Reporting live in downtown Orlando, I'm Bob Keeling, WESH 2 News.
One group says it's already taking steps to build a memorial to Kaylee Anthony near the site where her remains were found. After Casey Anthony was released from jail, members of Bring Kids Home held a peace walk on Suburban Drive. The group marched to the Anthony home just a few blocks away. Bring Kids Home wants to create a permanent memorial walkway with supporters buying bricks to create the path and fund the project in Kaylee's name. They do not yet own the land. Coming up at 5:30, an exclusive interview with one of Casey's attorneys, what Cheney Mason is saying about her possible whereabouts.
Tropical storm Brett is slowly drifting away from Central Florida, but it is getting stronger. I'm here now with Chief Meteorologist Tony Benalfi. And Tony, Brett is kicking up some big waves, and folks at the beach need to beware.
Yeah, they need to be careful, at least through tomorrow. And I think after that, I'm going to be in much better shape. You know, we were noting this ragged eye-like structure a short time ago, and it's interesting to note that the National Hurricane Center also made reference of that as well in its discussion. So there's no doubt it's getting a little bit stronger. It's over water temperatures now running right around 82 to 83 degrees. So the Doppler radar gives us the placement roughly about 205 miles now due east of the Cape there, and you can see the inflow. At one point there, it looked like an eye was trying to form, but now it's filling on in. But needless to say, a very impressive looking structure late this afternoon. And by the way, roughly right around 3:40, the hurricane hunters did find winds now closing in on 70 miles an hour. Flight level today, roughly at about 5,100 feet. So that equates to winds at the surface at about 65 miles an hour. Now, for us, we're seeing beautiful weather. If you're watching Jason at 4, he was showing you crystal clear skies along the coast. We're going to check in with Dan Billow here in just a little bit to give us the update on the impact along the coast. But you can see the rain now south of Brevard County. There's the updated path and stats now, moving to the northeast now, beginning to accelerate at about 7 miles an hour, and it's going to go in between Hatteras and Bermuda Bermuda, away from us here in central Florida. But the impacts, we're going to talk more about that coming up in just a couple of minutes. It's hurricane season, and don't forget, folks, now is the time to get acquainted with our hurricane section on WESH.com. No better time. Jim and Martha, back to you.
Covering Orange County right now, a man shot in the chest overnight in the parking lot of the Orlando Sentinel building. It's right in the downtown area at Concord Street and Magnolia Avenue. Streets in the area were blocked but have since reopened. Detectives hope security cameras on the roof of a loading dock could offer some clues. Covering Osceola County, a delivery man who was dropping off goods slams his car right through a Kissimmee restaurant. Chopper 2 was right there after the corner bistro on Erlo Bronson Memorial Highway when it got hit. These pictures give you a look at the damage from inside the building. Luckily, no one was hurt. No word on what exactly caused that accident.
The final return home for NASA's final shuttle mission is just hours away. Space Shuttle Atlantis astronauts closed the hatch to the International Space Station today. It was hugs all around as the Atlantis crew said goodbye to the ISS. Astronauts will depart from the space station tomorrow at 2:28 in the morning. Atlantis' return from space will end 3 decades of the shuttle program. When the shuttle lands for the final time, we will be there to cover it. Watch it live this Thursday at 5:56 in the morning here on WESH 2 or on WESH.com. Space expert Dan Billow leads our coverage. A 17-year-old charged with the brutal murder of his parents.
Port St. Lucie investigators say Tyler Hadley murdered his parents with a hammer and then had a party while they lay dead in their bedroom, hidden under towels and picture frames.
The crime scene was certainly a merciless killing. It was brutal, and then the Facebook invitation, a party, you know, to have your friends and 40 to 60 people come over, I think speaks for itself.
Hadley will be charged with first-degree murder. Police still do not have a motive. A man is seriously injured after crashing his car into a local building. It happened over the weekend on Colonial Drive at Goldenrod Road in East Orange County. You can see the front of the car at one point crumpled up against the office building. That driver was seriously hurt. No one else was injured.
An argument over $2 escalates to an unbelievable level.
And an airport under attack from Mother Nature.
Plus, follow the feathers, how an accused swan napper is tracked down, and the photograph that really tells this story.
And the frightening scene that brought a music festival to a stunning end.
Exclusive at 5:45. Inside Team Casey, a candid interview with Cheney Mason. Casey's next move, where she's not, and whether she can even be found.
When they blink, she'll be gone.
The interview you won't see anywhere else at 5:45.
His most accurate forecast. We're in traffic on WESH 2 News Sunrise. Local, live, late breaking. This is WESH 2 News at 5 with Martha Sigalski, Jim Payne, and weather with Chief Meteorologist Tony Manolfi. This is WESH 2 News at 5 in high definition.
A fight over $2 leaves a Jacksonville woman in jail and a man in the hospital.
Now, this happened in a restaurant parking lot. Officials say the woman ran down the man with her car after he took back the $2 he gave her. That woman has been charged with aggravated battery, leaving the scene of an accident, and driving without a license.
Controversial curriculum. Gay history is now a required course in California public schools. The argument for it, gays have been censored from the history books. While some are okay with it, many parents are not on board.
We have some elementary school age kids, and I think that they would not quite understand. But I think that once kids are old enough to understand about sexual preference and everything, then maybe that would be appropriate.
The way the subject will be applied is up to each school district.
Denver's airport is looking like a war zone these days. Hailstorms have been pounding planes on the runway. Many flights have been canceled for today and tomorrow, including flights to and from Tampa. Frontier Airlines has canceled nearly 100 flights since Wednesday. It's now working to put passengers on other planes.
We've had beautiful weather here today, not quite as hot, and we have Tropical Storm Brett right off our coast.
Yeah, how about that? Churning away, but still having an impact here.
Yeah, on the backside of these storms, you get that drier air, and that's what we've been seeing outside. Let's take you out there right now, and as you can see, it's a good-looking shot this time of the afternoon. As we saw on Friday, we had 40,500 lightning strikes, towering queue, heavy rain. what a different environment out there today, though. And I tell you what, the visible satellite from Brett there is just it's a thing of beauty there as it continues now to lift off towards the northeast, gaining a little bit of forward momentum here now all of a sudden. Forward speed at about 7 miles an hour. So again, the interest here for marine primarily here, but if you are headed to the beach this afternoon for the remainder of it to catch the sunset, or if you're heading there tomorrow, northeast onshore flow still means that rip currents and a rough chop are going to be a concern, and Dan Bill is going to be talking about that for us coming up at the top of the half hour there, so do stick around for that. But you can see these would be the isobars, the inflow into the center of this weak circulation. It looked a little bit more impressive earlier today, but it's over water that's about 82 to 83 degrees. So it's doing a couple things. It's pulling in that drier air. It's pulling away the rain from Brevard County. Some folks there over towards the Cape Kennedy this morning, easy for me to say, had nearly 2 inches of rain. Now the environment's much drier than what we saw earlier today. And again, this particular feature is going to lift off towards the northeast over the next couple of days, and then really haul as we get into Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, be off towards the UK towards the end of the week. Now, we take a look at the computer models and we look for model consistency. Do we have that here? Absolutely yes. So that's why this brings us a high confidence factor that this one is going to behave and pull off towards the northeast. Temps outside, 88. Orlando, 90 in the Villages, 85. Very comfortable up towards Daytona Beach. And we take a look at dew point temperatures, mid-60s this time of the year, folks. That is a treat. Very comfortable. Typically, we're looking at dew points running right around 73, 74 degrees, not 64, 65 degrees. And there's a breeze out there, so we'll have to watch that to dry out the soils. Could be a higher fire threat with, again, plenty of dry air around this week. As we take a look at the mid-evening forecast, by 10 o'clock, 77, midnight 75, tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. pretty comfortable. As a matter of fact, around the horn, 68 the Villages, 80 in Mount Dora. How about downtown Orlando? Right around 70 degrees over towards Oviedo, 70 degrees towards the coast, Palm Bay, Cocoa, New Smyrna Beach, and up towards Bunnell. Very, very comfortable weather. Temperatures in the upper 60s to the low 70s. So there goes Brett. Here comes our dry weather. Gorgeous Tuesday afternoon. You could not ask for better weather this time of the year with high pressure in play. Just watch along the coast. Again, seas running 1 to 2 feet. Rip currents will be the main concern as we get into the afternoon tomorrow. Now, the 7-day outlook, 74, 88, 91. Just a 10% chance for an isolated shower come late in the day, primarily along the coast. We work our way into Wednesday. Rain chances and humidity going up 95 degrees as we get into Wednesday afternoon. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, Jim and Martha, afternoon highs 95, 96. Rain chances going up to 30% by the weekend.
Tony, thanks. A swiped swan story with a happy ending.
Someone nabbed the bird from Lake Eola in downtown Orlando, and you can see, there it is, in the back of the patrol car after cops tracked it down.
Yeah, this isn't the first time this has happened. WESH 2's Michelle Meredith reports investigators just followed the feathers.
The case of the kidnapped swan was solved very quickly. In fact, Orlando police took this picture of the white swan just staring out the back seat of the patrol car shortly after the swan was recovered. What do you think about that?
Why you want anybody to steal a swan?
24-year-old Jeffrey Smart was arrested in connection with the swan kidnapping caper. It started around 1:30 Monday morning after police got a 911 call that a man was walking away from Lake Eola with a swan. A trail of feathers and a series of swan honks helped crack the case.
We just knew that there was a swan on the loose. The officers did an area check. I believe the officer actually heard the swan, and he followed the sound of the swan to the backyard and looked in the backyard, and sure enough, there was the swan located right there.
The swan was found in Smart's backyard, not far from Lake Eola. As for motive, none given. Smart is facing charges of cruelty to animals, grand theft, and being in a park after hours. The swan was returned here to Lake Eola and is doing just fine. In Orange County, Michelle Meredith, WESH 2 News.
Casey Anthony retrial, but this one is not in the court of law.
It's in a house of God. The unusual mock trial at a church, how they're bringing Central Florida's biggest case into Sunday service.
And what Carmageddon, the big freeway scare that didn't scare drivers at all.
Join us for local, live, late breaking. This is WESH 2 News at 5.
A church service and a hung jury.
A mock retrial of the Casey Anthony case was held at a church in Ohio yesterday. 12 church members were asked to consider if it would be right to sentence Casey to death if she did not kill her child. The outcome, 8 guilty, 4 not guilty. The church pastor says the lesson is to protect children in Cleveland from the same fate as Kaylee.
A violent thunderstorm brings a Canadian music festival to an abrupt end. That's the main stage collapsing in the middle of a performance by Cheap Trick at the Ottawa Blues Fest Sunday night. The band's members ran from the stage seconds before it fell. They're all okay. Debris began flying, forcing thousands of people to take shelter in the nearby Canadian War Museum. The storm also caused power outages and flooding in other parts of Ottawa.
A TV tower is engulfed in smoke and flames and comes crumbling down in the Netherlands. Take a look at this. No one was hurt, and it's not known what sparked the blaze. The fire interrupted television, radio, and phone networks in the areas nearby.
That's not going to be good for your reception right there.
No, it's not. A Florida political power player drops out of the race for Senate.
And days in the swamp, battling the elements, a woman tells America her story of survival.
And here's what you can see tonight on WESH 2, followed by WESH 2 News at 11.
This stage is set for the U.S. Secretary of Transportation and other dignitaries as it relates to Sunrail. I'm Gail Pascal Brown. I'll explain coming up.
If you want your own convenient weather forecast, go to WESH.com and customize your own weather page.
Sponsored by TD Bank, America's most convenient bank.
Local, live, late breaking. This is WESH 2 News at 5 with Martha Zagowski, Jim Payne, and weather with Chief Meteorologist Tony Menalfi. This is WESH 2 News at 5 in high definition.
Sunrail sparked a lot of controversy, but now the local commuter rail project is full speed ahead.
Today, several leaders rolled into Orlando to lay the foundation for Sunrail, which is expected to be up and running by May of 2014. WESH 2's Gail Pascal Brown is live at one of the future stops. Gail?
Well, I tell you, most of those key players were right out here today at Florida Hospital's campus, including Congressman John Mica, Congressman Corrine Brown, the U.S. Transportation Secretary, Florida's Transport Secretary, and countless local dignitaries. One thing officials do say about Sunrail, those who support it were definitely persistent. Florida Hospital welcomes Sunrail and the federal, state, and local officials who supported it.
Central Florida got its act together, and look what's happening. Sunrail is coming.
Central Florida's first ever commuter rail will be 61.5 miles, connecting Volusia, Seminole, Osceola, and Orange counties with the city of Orlando. Sunrail is expected to be rolling down the tracks in May of 2014. Stops in downtown Orlando include the Lynx bus station and Florida Hospital. The hospital announced today the construction of a $29 million administrative office with retail shops. Sunrail will help with parking woes.
It alleviates parking needs because it costs us about $20,000 per parking space to build a structured parking garage. And so Sunrail, everyone who takes the Sunrail, that's one less parking space to build.
Florida's Commuter Rail Commission chairman says there are other advantages too.
People saving money because they don't have to use their car. People saving time because they're not stuck on I-4.
The capital cost of the train will be split, 50% federal, 25% state, and 25% local. Today, U.S. Transportation Secretary Ray LaHood signed a document pledging $53 million in federal funds to the project, while the only opponent to Sunrail stood with the sign in his hands.
We're not a dense enough community to support a train system. New York City is a dense population. We don't have it. The people live too far away.
How much will it cost you to ride Sunrail? That's not been decided yet, but according to the website, Sunrail riders can probably expect an average fare of $2.50 for travel within one county and $1 per additional county. And another important issue about Sunrail that supporters don't want you to forget, the creation of jobs. 10,000 initially, 250,000 over the next 25 years. I'm Gail Pascal Brown in Orlando for WESH 2 News.
Tropical storm Brett gaining strength but becoming less of a problem for Central Florida. We do have team coverage right now. Meteorologist Dan Billow on the coast where people are feeling the brunt of the storm. But first we start with Chief Meteorologist Tony Menalfi with where Brett is right now.
About 210 miles east of where Dan is, and the winds have increased to 65 miles an hour. The visible satellite there really shows you what's going on. Actually had a little ragged eye there about 30 minutes ago. But let me give you the updated information now just coming in from the National Hurricane Center. And you're going to see the coordinates here as it continues to pull off towards the northeast. WSI guys, there we go. Winds now at 65 miles an hour. Beginning to move more toward the northeast at a quicker pace, about 7 miles an hour. The overall track, again, well away from us here in Central Florida. So that's certainly some good news. There's that center of circulation. Dan Billow right about here over towards Cocoa Beach. And you can see that drier air now being wrapped in on the backside of this thing. So gorgeous afternoon. And the rain that we had earlier is now beginning to lay down well to the south of us. The big concern, let me show you the wave heights here, and you can see where Dan is over towards Cocoa Beach, right about in here. Wave heights running close to about 4 feet. That may not seem like a big deal, but when you get that strong wind out of the northeast at about 20 miles an hour, that creates problems. Let's check in with Dan now to get the update. How are folks handling the water out there, Dan, today?
Well, Tony, you can feel the tropical storm circulation here on the beach. You can feel the change in the weather, and really it's pretty pleasant because of the that onshore wind coming ashore. Mid-80s out here on Cocoa Beach. Temperature in the mid-80s and less moisture because it's being drawn off by Brett. But the storm is kicking up the surf and the rip currents this afternoon in Cocoa Beach. A surfer was hit in the face by her surfboard when she was out there in the somewhat rough conditions. Paramedics took her to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. Whenever you have onshore winds pushing the water toward the beach, you do have an increased threat of rip currents.
A lot of people see the waves as being inviting to go have a good time at the beach, and sometimes people are overstepping their own personal limits, which then basically our guys are stepping in and trying to help out.
The rip current threat will be with us into tomorrow, but will ease as the winds begin to weaken and come out of the north. And as you can see, a little bit rough out there, 3 to 4 feet, but people really enjoying it as long as they are careful of those rip currents. It's a pretty good time out here. Tony?
All right, Dan, thanks for the report. Water temperature, by the way, an inviting 82 to 83 degrees. As you heard, Dan, by the middle of the week, Jim, air temperatures running in the low 90s. The beach will be the place to be.
All right, Tony, thanks. A Florida woman loses control of her car and kills a man mowing his lawn.
Officials say Amanda Rose Davis was driving 25 miles over the speed limit when she hit Thomas Stiles on July 6th in Murphy, North Carolina. He died in the hospital the next day. Davis has been charged with multiple offenses, including felony death by a vehicle. A Floridian stuck in a swamp up to her neck in murky water. Today, she says she could hear people searching for her, but couldn't respond. Kathy Shino still doesn't understand how it happened. She was walking one moment, then woke up almost buried up to her neck in muck. Her feet were tangled in mangrove roots. Kathy stayed that way for 4 days. She started hallucinating and at one point thought she was dead. At other times, she knew help was close, but not close enough.
Yes, I heard them and I knew they were very close, but I couldn't respond verbally. By the time I could, they were already gone.
Eventually, someone who lives nearby heard her moaning and called for help. She spent several days in the hospital recovering. Doctors still don't know why she blacked out.
The Republican race for Florida's open Senate seat is getting smaller. Florida Senate President Mike Herodopoulos announced today that he is dropping out. The Republican candidate says he could not effectively serve his current position and devote time to campaigning for Senator Bill Nelson's seat. His departure cuts the GOP list down to 4 candidates, including George Lemieux and Craig Miller. The power shift is complete in Afghanistan. General David Petraeus has handed over command of the coalition forces to General John Allen. Petraeus was behind the U.S. troop surge designed to strike insurgents and protect locals. He is taking over as the head of the CIA. Now to the latest in the debt debate.
The president says
Jim and Martha, still no deal, but this could be a critical week as lawmakers take up several proposals.
Any progress?
President Obama giving an update after more talks with House Republican leaders Sunday.
We can't let politics stand in the way of doing the right thing in Washington.
But it seemed to be all politics as the White House threatened to veto the latest debt limit proposal, a Tea Party-backed plan dubbed Cut, Cap, and Balance.
This is a measure that is designed to duck, dodge, and dismantle.
The measure would let the government borrow up to $2.4 trillion, but require major spending cuts and a balanced budget.
We can no longer borrow 40 cents out of every dollar in this country. That's why we must pass Cut, Cap, and Balance.
Ahead of a vote Tuesday, House Speaker John Boehner and other GOP leaders called the president's veto threat unfortunate.
The Cut, Cap, and Balance plan is the kind of strong medicine Washington needs.
The bill likely to pass the House, but not the Senate, where Majority Leader Harry Reid said lawmakers will work overtime to find a fix.
We're going to stay in session every day, including Saturdays and Sundays, until Congress passes legislation.
Federal budget expert Stan Collender says the chances of a deal are still uncertain.
The fact that these votes are being scheduled in the House and Senate may be a positive sign. It may show that things are actually moving towards a resolution. On the other hand, it's a little frustrating that they can't do this debating, take these votes, and actually negotiate at the same time.
The White House says it's still pushing for some kind of final agreement by Friday, but says it's not a hard deadline. That's August 2nd. In Washington, Nicole Killian, WESH 2 News.
New tonight, the whistleblower who alleged widespread hacking at the News of the World has been found dead. Another high-level resignation today in the scandal involving Rupert Murdoch's media empire.
Yeah, his death is not considered suspicious, but it adds another layer to this tangled investigation. NBC's Stephanie Gosk reports there's a new high-level resignation tonight.
And I've made my statement to them.
London's top cop resigned under intense pressure after it emerged that Scotland Yard hired a former News of the World editor as a media consultant in 2009. The former editor, Neil Wallace, was arrested for his connections with the phone hacking scandal last week. In stepping down, Stevenson denies any wrongdoing.
I have heard suggestions that we must have suspected the alleged involvement of Mr. Wallace in phone hacking. Let me say unequivocally that I did not and had no reason to do so.
Stevenson says he quit because he's become a distraction for Scotland Yard. Meanwhile, Rebecca Brooks, the former head of Murdoch's British newspaper arm, was the latest person to be arrested. Brooks resigned from her executive position at News Corp on Friday, the same day Les Hinton, her predecessor, now publisher of the Wall Street Journal, resigned. On Tuesday, Rupert and James Murdoch will publicly answer questions from members of Parliament. News Corp published 2 full-page advertisements in the British press over the weekend. One, an apology directly from Murdoch. The second, a list of what News Corp will do to make it right. NBC News spoke with Rebecca Brooks, spokesman, who told us that she has been in contact with Scotland Yard since January, asking to assist in this case, and as recently as last week was told, quote, that she was not even on the radar. Her arrest yesterday, he says, came as a complete surprise. Stephanie Gosk, NBC News, London.
Dwight Howard in the land of the Great Wall.
And one weekend event sets a social networking record.
Plus, a WESH 2 News exclusive in the Casey Anthony saga. What could happen between Casey and her parents?
So I don't think they should expect a whole lot from Casey. She expects nothing from them.
New insights into Casey's post-jail life, one-on-one with Casey's attorney.
Then at 6, as the astronauts wrap up their final mission, space expert Dan Billow takes us to the International Space Station for the goodbyes and a look at what they're leaving behind on the ISS. Exclusive at 5:45. Inside Team Casey, a candid interview with Cheney Mason. Casey's next move, where she's not, and whether she can even be found.
When they blink, she'll be gone.
The interview you won't see anywhere else at 5:45.
Time and temperature from TD Bank.
Non-stop weather and traffic on WESH 2 News Sunrise.
Next, Entertainment Tonight. Kate's wedding dress on display, how you can see it up close. Then the good wife love triangle. And Mike and Molly's plus-size star as a gladiator. Next, ET.
Local, live, late-breaking. This is WESH 2 News at 5.
Casey Anthony is enjoying freedom since being released from the Orange County Jail Sunday morning.
Yeah, the question for people all over the world, where is she spending that first full day? Today, one of the only people who knows is talking publicly.
In a WESH 2 News exclusive, Casey's defense attorney, Cheney Mason, talks with NBC's Carrie Sanders.
She's absolutely free. She doesn't check in with anybody. She'll stay in contact with the defense team, Mr. Baez and myself only, No probation, no parole, no sanction, no court jurisdiction over her of any kind, period. She is free. Imagine the shock, Jim. I mean, she wakes up yesterday morning and again today and looks up and can see sky. And she can hear whatever there is to hear, wherever she is, whether it's waves or animals or expressway or whatever. Sounds, you know, of life, sounds of freedom. And she'll have to adjust to it, you know, hour by hour and day by day. And it's going to take some time. And she knows it. She's alert, at least, to understanding that things are not going to be simple for a long time. We have mental health professionals that have volunteered their time and services in various capacities. She has her family, which she defines as us, and nobody's quitting on her. None of the team that tried the case are quitting or going anywhere. She has people to rely on, people to help her. She's not at my house. I keep hearing rumors, and I had Shirley look around yesterday to make sure. She's not in our house. She's not at my condominium. She's not in any of my property anywhere. So we're asking everybody to leave her alone, and depending on what actions people do, it may be more than an ask. And they're going to be tricky. There might be somebody, if they won't spend enough money and effort and energy trying to find her, but it won't do them any good because they won't be able to get to her, they won't be able to talk to her, and when they blink, she'll be gone. Some things they did to try to help her, some things they didn't. And I just learned that, interestingly enough, apparently Mr. Baez wanted some of their family to help with the decoy process to get her out of jail, and they wouldn't even do that. So I don't think they should expect a whole lot from Casey. She expects nothing from them.
Carmageddon is over in L.A. Bridge construction on an overpass on Los Angeles' busy highways finished 16 hours ahead of schedule. The expected widespread chaos was avoided. The mayor thanked residents for avoiding the area.
And we couldn't have done it without the cooperation of the people of this city. It looks like they got the message. They actually not only didn't get in their car, they frankly didn't leave their home.
Interstate 405 will be closed for another weekend 11 months from now to finish the next phase of the project.
From the Eastern Conference to the Far East, Dwight Howard could be headed to China to play this season. Orlando Superman says he is so frustrated with the NBA lockout that he is seriously considering playing in China or Europe if the lockout doesn't end. He told the Associated Press that it'd give him a chance to work on his skills. The upcoming NBA season is on hold because of contract negotiations. A soccer shocker. Japan stuns the U.S. in the Women's World Cup final, winning in penalty kicks. The American team squandered a 2-1 second-half lead. Former Florida Gator Abby Wambach scored what would have been the winning goal, but Japan then scored late in the second half, tying things up. Team USA says it's disappointed, but honored the country that rallied around them.
I mean, pretty devastated, obviously, losing the World Cup final, but, you know, I think we have a lot to be proud of, and we're going back to a country that's extremely proud of us, and, you know, that means a lot.
It is Japan's first win against Team USA in 26 tries. The World Cup final is going down in history as the most tweeted event ever. There were more than 7,000 tweets per second. Second most, another soccer match between Paraguay and Brazil. Third on the list, the minutes just after midnight in Japan on New Year's Day. And the most heavily tweeted U.S. event, this year's Super Bowl between the eventual champion and awesome Green Bay Packers and the Pittsburgh Steelers.
You had to ad-lib that in there, didn't you?
Just trying to reinforce in everyone's mind who the reigning Super Bowl champions are from Titletown, USA.
Just stating fact, right?
That's it.
See the tie, too? Green.
Yeah, I can.
How about that?
It's beautiful weather, Tony.
It is. Let me take you back outside. That's the developing story out there, Jim and Martha, right now. In the wake of Brett, we have some fantastic weather out there right now. Whether you're at Daytona Beach, whether you're at Cocoa Beach, whether you're at the Cape, whether you're at Universal, Orlando, Islands of Adventure. Look at these guys. They're going bam, 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 bam. Well, these pictures, I love them. Great work in the back, guys. And I tell you what, the weather tomorrow is going to be absolutely spectacular. If you're a runner, you are going to be loving the weather tomorrow. Low humidity, afternoon highs seasonable, but the feels-like temperature is really not that bad. And as Brett was pulling away, good-looking shot from Mike Moore. He's a Florida weather chaser. This was the backside of Brett. You can see the drier air working on in, and then off in the distance, you can see well off to the east. Look at that angry-looking sky right there. Way to go, Mike. Keep those photos coming. And it's about 205 miles now due east of the Kennedy Space Center. It's still going to be some rough surf. Lifeguards are busy today, as you heard from meteorologist Dan Billow covering Brett from the coast first this afternoon. Looks like one more busy day for us tomorrow, and then the beach will be the place to be because, folks, it's going to get awfully hot. But watch what's been going on. If you had to draw in isobars, which is a fancy word for saying lines of equal pressure around Brett, it would probably look something like that, and you can see that dry air just pretty much evaporating the backside of that moisture that was coming through Brevard County earlier today. In fact, folks at the Kennedy Space Center and over towards Cape Canaveral, nearly 2 inches of rain today in some of those bands as it came through very early this morning. Now, there is Brett, the very latest from the National Hurricane Center, pulling off to the north-northeast now at about 7 miles an hour. Looks like it could peak at about 70 miles an hour. There may be a narrow ribbon the next 24 hours for this to become a brief hurricane, but again, as it's moving off to the northeast, water temperatures get cooler. But look at the consistency of the tropical models. That's what we like to see when we're making our forecast with the tropical features. So tonight, Brett pulling away, comfortably cool late tonight and tomorrow morning. Relative for this time of the year, of course, with temperatures in the 60s north and west. And in town, temperatures running close to about 70 degrees, 69, 70. It hasn't been that cool since early June. 88 currently out there right now, 88 in Ocala, 85 Daytona Beach. Onshore breeze there at about 10 miles an hour. So mid-evening temperatures falling into the mid-70s. Then by daybreak, we'll be in the upper 60s to low 70s. 66 to be precise in Ocala, 69 Eustis, downtown over towards Kissimmee, Winter Garden, Winter Haven, close to about the 70-degree mark. We head towards the coast here. Another very comfortable and crisp morning for this time of the year anyway, with 70 degrees over towards even the coastline, A1A, with that offshore flow. So there's Brett pulling off to the northeast, away from the peninsula. Dry north-northwest winds becoming more northeasterly later in the day as Brett continues to pull away. So the big concern along the coast, watch the chop, watch the seas. The surf will be running 3 to 4 feet tomorrow. Rip currents will become the main concern and will stay that way through tomorrow. Later in the week, things will reverse itself and those temperatures will go up. 74, 88, 91, just a 10% chance here for an isolated shower come tomorrow along the immediate coastline. Wednesday, rain chances going up, as will those afternoon highs. Big dome of high pressure settles on in. 95 degrees. And Jim and Martha, look at the rest of this week on into the weekend. Sizzling afternoon highs near 95. Rain chances where they should be at about 30% towards the weekend.
Tony, thank you. A race to the finish running the wrong way.
And what goes down must go up. A jetpack that doesn't quite have all the kinks worked out.
Join us for WESH 2 News on CW18 at 10 p.m.
Closed captioning sponsored by Safe Touch Security.
Competitors from across the world put their foot backwards.
Runners competed over the weekend in the first ever backwards running championships. They ran a 1-mile course through London. Organizers say it puts a different spin on running and hope it will one day become an Olympic sport. Yeah, watch out, buddy. A memorable first pitch at the Arizona Diamondbacks game on Saturday. Check that out. Tom Willis threw out the ceremonial first pitch with his foot. Willis has no arms and is trying to raise awareness of the abilities of physically disabled people. He's traveling to Major League Baseball stadiums around the country as part of his Pitch for Awareness national tour.
Good for him. Just about anything can happen on live television. When you think you've seen it all, something like this happens.
And it starts right now.
Oh my gosh! During a live broadcast on a station in San Diego, a man at a boat show tried to take off with his water-powered jetpack. Instead, he hits the kill switch and goes under. He eventually gets the jetpack, there you go, out of the water.
If at first you don't succeed,
try.
Don't hit the kill switch again. There you go. Good work there.
It's a pretty cool video.
And off he goes, as long as his tether will take him. WESH 2 News at 6 is coming up next.
You were here for the verdict.
You find the defendant not guilty?
You were here for the testimony.
I need to get through this.
Here for a heartbreaking discovery.
A meter reader literally stumbled on a bag with bones in it.
You were here when a child was reported missing.
Tonight, that mother is in jail claiming she has no idea where to find her little girl.
Breaking news is unpredictable, but one thing is for sure. Local, live, late-breaking coverage begins here on WESH 2 News.